Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Friday, January the 29th, 2021. This morning I would like to talk to you about grief, remembering, and loving. Today marks the 1-year anniversary when Rob's dad, Gary, died. I had the beautiful experience of being able to go and move in with him in Thamesville and live with him for the last almost month of his life. That was a gift I was given because I wasn't working. We were living in Round Lake near Petawawa, and I didn't have a parish. And I do believe that was one of the gifts that God gave us, in that being in Petawawa for only 1 year and unable to find a parish in which to serve as rector, I had the time that I was able to give to go and live with Gary and take care of him as he celebrated life for the last few weeks of his earthly life. I was also in a position that would have been so difficult for any of his children or anyone else to do. I wasn't his daughter, I was his daughter-in-law, which allowed me to be able to take care of things for him, and he still was able to maintain his dignity that I think would have been really difficult for him had someone who was related to him by blood needed to do those things for him. But it was also an opportunity for him to be able to have a priest. Because Gary, we argued a lot, and we laughed a lot. Sometimes we even yelled at each other, both fiery personalities, both Anglican priests, and we had different opinions about how to do things and what it meant to be a priest. But in that, there was also an incredible sense of recognition that just because I might do it differently than he does, or he did things differently than I did, that didn't negate the fact that we were both good priests. And so I was given the gift of that last few months when I was able to serve him by just being his nurse and being his priest and being his daughter-in-law, but also being his friend. It also allowed me the opportunity to listen to his stories, to take time for him to be able to articulate things that had been on his mind, ask questions and make statements that maybe others who had more history with him would have jumped in and not understood that he just needed to talk. Sometimes when we are living with someone or working with someone who is dying, we need to realize that silence might be the best gift that we can offer. In his pain and in his frustration about the limitations he had on his body, Gary often took a lot of silence, but then he would break the silence with something profound, or he would say something that had been on his mind for a long time, or tell a really, really bad joke that he just needed to tell. But being present to him allowed him the dignity to do what he needed to do, to be who he was, to celebrate every last little bit of life that he had in him. And he did. Right until the end, Gary was vibrant and funny and witty and loving and kind and generous in spirit. And I think sometimes that the closer people get to the end of their lives, the more difficult it is for those things to be able to come out. And so it was a blessing that I was given to be able to participate in that. In the past year, we have obviously moved from Ontario to Alberta. We have changed jobs. Rob was promoted after his dad died. We were able to come here, and I was able to be hired as the rector at St. Mary's and St. Thomas. And the pandemic happened. That was beginning when I was living with Gary, we would watch it on television, what was happening in Wuhan, China. This past year has been a year of remembering. And in many ways, it has been a year of remembering, putting the pieces of the body of our Parker part of the clan back together, recognizing that when someone dies, not only does that person leave your life physically, but parts of your own life seem to be taken, at least maybe for a little while. We have to take the time to grieve. It is okay to grieve. Yesterday, I talked about the importance of being able to talk about mental health the next part of that is being able to talk honestly about our grief. Sometimes grief looks like unending tears. Sometimes grief looks like laughter as we think about something funny in that person's life. Sometimes grief is an outlet. Sometimes we feel guilty about still feeling grief, and sometimes we feel guilty when the grief starts to ebb away and life sort of resumes. We need to give each other permission, give ourselves permission to grieve the way we naturally grieve. Every person is different, and so every person's way of dealing with death, with loss, will be different as well. But then we need to remember. We need to start picking up the pieces of the life that has been lost and putting them back into our lives, remembering the good times, remembering the advice, remembering the arguments we had that helped us to grow, to form our opinions, to strengthen our opinions, or to change our opinions. We need to remember that person. We know that who we were missing, in this case Gary, is with God in heaven. But we also need to remember that they are ultimately still with us as well. And we need to put those pieces back together. We need to take the members of that body, of that person that we remember, and pull them back together. We have to remember them in our lives in a different way. And we need to continue loving. One of the gifts that we have been given through Jesus Christ is that even though someone has died and we know that they have been received into God's heavenly kingdom, is that they have this incredible ability to love us, unlike anything they could do when they were with us. I'm reminded all the time of how much love comes for parents, for new parents, when they have two people who love each other, have a new baby, or add another baby to a family. There might be some concern that how can I have more love to give? And yet miraculously, the addition of this person, the addition of this baby into the family, just increases the love that everyone has to give. It defies logic, and yet it happens. It is a miracle of love. I think the same thing happens when we lose someone. We lose someone when they die. That our ability to love them increases, and their ability to love us does as well. And we need to embrace that. When Jesus died, rose again, and was ascended to heaven, he took with him all of those people that we see no longer. They are with him in heaven, where they are able to love, and they are able to worship God, and they are able to understand that which on this earthly plane we cannot understand. And so, as we remember Gary today, as we celebrate a year of weird, but a year that Gary would probably have lots of opinions to share about, we grieve his loss, but we also remember him, and we love him, and we know we are loved in return. And the same can be said for anyone that we have loved and lost. They are not lost. They are with God. We are just separated from them physically for a while. But one day we will be reunited with them in Christ, and then we will understand what true remembering is, when all of the members of God's family are brought back together and are created into a new family, the family of God in heaven. The brothers and sisters of Christ reunited, remembered into the family of God. So as we think about those we have loved and lost, but not lost, just can't see any longer, give yourself permission to grieve. Give yourself permission to remember them. And know that you are welcome to still love them, and they are still loving you. Grief, remembering, loving, they are all part of the natural rhythm of our lives. Don't run away from it. Embrace it. And you might find that your life is enhanced more than you could ask or imagine. Have a great day. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you Sunday with church and Monday morning with Church at Home with Rachael. God bless. Stay home. Stay safe. If you got to go out, wear your mask. God bless everybody. Have a great weekend.